The Trump administration wants to deregulate business as much as possible. In fact, Trump has famously said that for every new regulation, he would like to repeal 2 regulations. Now, in an effort to repeal regulations that airline industries do not like, the Department of Transportation has essentially opened up a forum to allow the airline industry to air their grievances and share what type of regulations they would like to see gone, taken away. And what they want to do is pretty devastating, especially when you take into account how incredibly uncomfortable it already is to fly. It seems as though members of the airline industry are already mistreating consumers, and if they get what they want, they could mistreat us even further. Let me give you the details. If the airlines get what they want, the government would weaken the tarmac delay rule, which imposes hefty fines for stranding passengers on planes for long periods, and also eliminate a requirement that they show the full price of a ticket when people shop. Because that's too much of a regulation. Being honest about how much the ticket costs to the consumer. They want to get rid of that regulation. That's, wow.
Right. There's, they want to impose fees for wheelchair services. They want to take away your 24-hour refund period if you by accident buy a ticket you didn't mean to buy.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Right that is huge. Yeah. Okay, so there currently, thankfully, in the United States, there is that 24-hour grace period, which I have admittedly taken advantage of when I
have to. All of us. Yeah, for sure.
When I was booking, actually recently, when I had to book a trip to DC for work and I used the company card and then I realized I booked the wrong date and I had a panic attack because I thought I couldn't get a refund, but there was that 24-hour grace period and I, was able to breathe a sigh of relief. They want to get rid of that.
Well, and you know why that is so important as well, besides the fact that they're going very anti-disability to folks, is that the airline industry in America is so unregulated that prices just vacillate so significantly that in other countries that have a airline industry that's nationally subsidized, you don't experience the same thing. I was actually talking to my sister. I bought tickets on Emirates, and it was the same cost to fly a week or 2 out as it was a month ago. So that's because their airline is subsidized by the country of United Arab Emirates. And the other interesting thing as a part of this is that they are trying to slap regulations on other airlines that are not part of the US, which again, let's go back to these Middle Eastern airlines. Emirates and other airlines from the Middle East, Etihad, and I believe Jordan's Royal Jordan Airlines, they were trying to make it difficult for typically like business class travelers to fly on those planes because their business classes are much better. And the tickets, again, as I explained, are much cheaper. And so they banned laptops and other, I believe, iPads from coming in as carry-on luggage to the States. And they tried to say that it was a security concern, but they were trying to deter people to buy from other airlines that were not American airlines. So they're making the American airline experience incredibly uncomfortable,
right,
difficult. And then what are they doing? They're trying to make it difficult for us to fly with other airlines.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I didn't know about that. Also, while they're trying to shed any and all regulations that they have to deal with, they want to tighten regulations that we as consumers have to deal with. So one thing that they would like to get rid of is protections for individuals who have emotional support pets. So if you have an emotional support dog and you have documentation to prove it, you're able to fly with that pet and you don't have to pay for it, right? They want to do away with that, so you wouldn't be protected if you have emotional needs. You would still have to pay a fee, or you might not even be able to bring your pet on board with you. It's a huge hassle for people working on these flights to allow people to have their emotional support animals.
No, you're right. It's not a hassle, and to charge for it and to charge for the wheelchair service, and these are all the fees that add up. And remember, Remember the good old days when you didn't have to pay to have your luggage checked? They're making, it really went from the red to the black, a lot of these airlines, based on charging us these additional fees. So there's that. So these are corporate fat cats getting fatter. But the tarmac delay law and that regulation came into effect because there were these inordinate delays of 7 and 8 hours on a snowy tarmac in Detroit. The toilets were overflowing. The scene inside the cabin was something out of like a Lord of the Flies. And that's where this came from. That's how they developed this regulation. So, plus, as Anna says, the 24-hour rule, that should just be a basic consumer protection. Oop, I clicked the wrong thing. Look, it just happened a minute ago. No problem, we'll undo it. These are always, fat cats are getting fatter. This is a corporate money grab and nothing else. They don't want to have to answer to the consumer. They're undoing all the consumer protections. It is nothing short of that.
Right, but Trump is looking out for the little guy, right? I mean, look, I get it. I get that those on the right have, some of those on the right have bought into the propaganda that any and all regulation is bad, it's red tape, we don't want red tape. But there are regulations that were purposely put in place to protect you, the consumer. And so in this case, they want to get rid of those protections. Again, flying is already incredibly uncomfortable. And we're now living in this world where there is an entire industry that could literally not give you what you paid for. You can pay for a flight and they can literally kick you off that flight if they have overbooked it, right? No other industry is allowed to do something like that. So I feel like the airline industry is already under-regulated and they want to further do away with whatever consumer protections exist. By the way, they want to drop requirements to show on-time and cancellation data with flights.
Right. And the airlines are explaining why they are advocating for these deregulations, and their response was that the Department of Transportation was turning too activisty. That's remarkable to say, that to be on the side of the consumer is too activisty. And I think the reason why people believe the rhetoric around Trump is they don't understand the philosophy that's undergirding it. And yes, we could say it's a corporatocracy, it's a plutocracy, but it's deeper than that. It's a philosophy called neoliberalism, and neoliberalism is all about deregulation, expanding the free markets, but beyond the point of what capitalism envisioned it to be. And the interesting point about it is that these folks only want the state to exist so that they can validate the desires and the exploitations of these big corporations. That's the only reason they want the state to exist, is for corporate wealth and greed. That's the neoliberal philosophy. So if you buy into any of that, you're buying into your own destruction.
Let me say one last thing about the word regulation, because it's used and people think, yeah, I do want to get government off our backs, and there is too much regulation. It's like one of those things, they go, yeah, let's get the man off my back. Protections. Anna also used that word, and that is what goes on with so many of these laws. Consumers are protected by these very things that they're rolling back. These, we can call them regulations, but they are consumer protections, and they are going away.
If you become a member of the Young Turks, you'll be saying,
I'm like a smart person.
So do it right now, tytnetwork.com/join. Get the whole Young Turks show every day.